It was a quiet Sunday morning, the kind that used to bring me peace. The kettle hummed in the kitchen, sunlight spilled through the curtains, and the house, my house, still smelled faintly of my late wife's perfume. For years, that scent had been my only comfort, a reminder of love and of loss. My name's Robert Hayes, and I used to believe family meant loyalty. I used to believe my daughter Emily was the best part of me. But belief has a cruel way of turning into delusion when trust is misplaced. I was 62, semi-retired, and living off the house I'd built brick by brick, the same one Emily grew up in. Her mother and I bought it 34 years ago when we still thought forever meant something. Since her passing 5 years ago, Emily had been the only reason I stayed here. She'd visit on weekends, sometimes bringing her fiancé, Daniel, all charm and fake smiles. I never liked him, but for her sake, I tried. That morning, Emily arrived unannounced. Her voice was sharp, not like her mother's warmth, but rehearsed, cold. "Dad, we need to talk about the house," she said, setting her purse on the counter like she owned the place. I frowned. "What about it?" She looked at Daniel, who gave her a subtle nod. "Maybe it's time you think about simplifying things," she said carefully. "You don't need a big house anymore. You could sell it, move into a nice condo." My chest tightened. "You mean a retirement home?" Daniel smiled that salesman's grin. "It's safer, Robert. Fewer stairs, better care. You could use some company." I wanted to laugh. I'd taken care of myself all my life. Through cancer scares, through her mother's death, through loneliness. And now my own daughter thought I couldn't handle my own home? "I'll think about it," I lied, just to end the talk. But the way she looked at me, not with love, but with pity, stayed with me long after they left. That night, and I couldn't sleep. I sat in my late wife's old chair, replaying every word, every glance. Was I really becoming a burden? Or was there something else behind Emily's sudden urgency? The next evening I got my answer. They came over again, uninvited. I pretended to be asleep upstairs. I heard them talking in the kitchen, voices low but sharp. Emily whispered, "Once he signs the papers, the house is legally mine. We just need to make him think it's for his safety." Daniel's voice followed, colder than hers. "If he refuses, we can prove he's not mentally stable. Easy enough with a few doctor's notes." For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. My own daughter, the child I carried on my shoulders, taught to ride a bike, watched cry at her mother's funeral, was plotting to take my home. That's when I realized something inside me had broken, and something darker was waking up. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Tell me in the comments. As the night deepened, I made a silent promise. If Emily wanted to get rid of me, she'd regret ever trying. Through the thin wall, I heard Daniel say, "By next month, the house will be ours." And I smiled in the dark for the first time in years. The morning after, I brewed coffee like nothing happened. When Emily called, I even softened my voice. "Sweetheart," I said, "about that house talk, maybe you're right. Maybe I should think about downsizing." Her tone lit up instantly. "Really, Dad? That's great. I knew you'd understand." But what she didn't know was that I'd already made my first move. I called my lawyer, Mr. Callahan, a gruff old man who'd handled our family papers for decades. "Robert," he said, "you sure about this? You want to sell the house?" I smiled faintly. "I want to sell it, but not to who she thinks." Over the next few weeks, I pretended to go along with Emily's plan. I let her show me brochures, schedule meetings, even bring over a real estate advisor. All the while, I was setting up quiet meetings with buyers of my own, discreet ones, cash ready. The plan was simple: sell the house myself, transfer the money somewhere safe, and vanish before she even realized it was gone. But revenge, as I would soon learn, doesn't come clean. It stains everything, even victory. Daniel began visiting more often, his tone getting bolder each time. "Robert, it's great you're considering the move," he'd say, patting my back like I was some senile fool. "Emily just wants what's best for you." I'd smile and nod, letting him think I'd swallowed the lie. One afternoon, I accidentally left the house deed on the dining table. I watched from the hallway mirror as Emily stared at it for a long time, then slipped it into her purse. Perfect. That was the proof I needed. Evidence of her intent. I wasn't going to just punish her. I was going to teach her. A week later, I called her over again. "Emily," I said softly, "I've been thinking about signing that property document. Bring it next time." Her eyes gleamed. "You mean the transfer papers?" I nodded. "Yes, let's finish this." That night, I couldn't sleep. My wife's photo stared at me from the nightstand. "Would you forgive me for this?" I whispered. Her silent eyes didn't answer, but something in me said she'd understand. When the day came, I dressed neatly. Navy blazer, polished shoes, calm face. Emily and Daniel arrived, all smiles and false affection. They handed me a pen and a stack of papers. "This will just make everything official," Emily said. I nodded, flipping through the pages slowly, pretending to struggle reading the fine print. "You sure this is for my protection?" I asked. "Of course, Dad," she said quickly. Too quickly. I signed, but not on the papers she thought. I switched them moments before, slipping hers into my coat and handing her a meaningless draft. When she hugged me afterward, I almost laughed. The game had just begun. As they drove away, I opened the envelope. Inside was the real deed, still in my name. And within 2 days, I'd sold the house quietly to an anonymous buyer. By the time Emily realized what I'd done, it would already belong to someone else. But revenge always costs something, and I was about to find out the price. That evening, I went upstairs to put away my documents, and realized my safe was open. The envelope, the one with the sale agreement and the buyer's details, was gone. Emily's voice echoed from the hallway. "Dad, we need to talk. I found something in your study." She stood in the hallway with that same nervous half-smile she used when she was a kid caught sneaking cookies. Only now it wasn't sugar she was after. It was my secrets. "Dad," she said softly, stepping into my study, "I found the safe open." My heart thumped once, hard, but I kept my face calm. "Oh, maybe I forgot to lock it," I said, shrugging. "Old age, you know." She smiled faintly, but her eyes, her mother's eyes, were searching. "Maybe, but I also found these." She held up 2 papers. One was the fake draft I'd given her. The other was a printout of my property sale email thread. For a moment, I felt the room spin. I'd deleted those messages. How the hell had she— "You sold the house?" she demanded, voice trembling. "Without even telling me?" I forced a tired sigh. "It's my house, Emily. I can do what I want with it." Her face twisted. Disbelief, anger, betrayal. "You said you trusted me." "No," I said coldly. "You said I should trust you." For a long silence, she just stared at me. Then she whispered, "You think I wanted to hurt you?" I didn't answer, because truthfully, I didn't know anymore. She turned, blinking hard. "Daniel said you'd do this. He said you'd find a way to ruin things out of spite." Her words stung like acid. "Daniel? You're listening to him over your own father?" At least he's honest, she snapped. I laughed then, bitter and broken. Honest? He's a parasite, Emily. He wants what's mine. You're just too blind to see it. Her voice cracked. You've always hated him. You never wanted me to be happy. That hit deeper than I expected, because part of me wondered if she was right. Maybe I had clung to her too tightly after her mother died. Maybe I'd turned love into control. But another part, the darker part, whispered that she deserved this lesson. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frames rattled. I sank into my chair, staring at the empty doorway. For years, I'd lived for that girl, paid for her college, covered her debts, bailed her out of every bad decision. And now, she was aligning herself with the man who wanted me gone. I picked up my wife's photo again. You see it now, don't you? I whispered. She's not the same little girl anymore. That night, I called my lawyer again. Callahan, I said, voice steady. I want to finalize the transfer. The house is gone, but I want the funds moved offshore, quietly. He hesitated. Robert, are you sure? That'll make it hard to reverse. That's the point, I muttered. No one reverses this. But even as I hung up, unease crept in. Emily was too quiet, too calm, and I'd learned the hard way. Silence is just another weapon. A few days later, I found a letter on my porch. No return address, just my name, typed in bold. Inside was a single page. You can't run from blood, Robert. She knows. I froze. No one but my lawyer knew about the sale. Had she hacked my email? Or had Daniel, that smug bastard, gotten help? The paranoia began to eat at me. Every phone call, every car parked outside felt like surveillance. I started sleeping in my study, locking the door, keeping documents close. And yet, every morning, something small was missing. A photo frame, a key, an envelope. She was taunting me. It wasn't just a battle for the house anymore. It was a war for control. And she was learning from me. Don't forget to subscribe if you're following this story so far. Things are about to turn darker than ever. That night, as I went to close my blinds, I saw a car parked across the street. Daniel's car. Inside, the glow of a phone screen. Emily's silhouette beside him. And in her hands, a folder I recognized instantly. My lawyer's letterhead. She looked straight at the window, met my eyes through the dark, and raised the folder slowly, like a warning. The next morning, a knock shattered the silence. I opened the door, expecting Emily. Instead, a courier. Delivery for Mr. Robert Hayes, he said, handing me a thick envelope. Inside, a cease and desist notice. Filed by Emily Hayes. She'd reported me for unauthorized financial transactions concerning shared family property. I felt the blood drain from my face. The house wasn't legally shared. I'd bought it decades before her name was even on the insurance papers. But the fact that she'd gone this far, she wanted a war. I called her immediately. Emily, what the hell is this? Her voice on the other end was ice. You can't just sell our home behind my back. Our home? I spat. You left years ago. It was Mom's house, too, she said quietly. Her name's still on the deed, remember? I froze. I had kept my late wife's name attached for sentimental reasons. And now, Emily was using that to her advantage. Daniel's influence was all over it. You think this is about the house? I said, voice shaking. It's about control. You and that leech want what's mine. She laughed bitterly. You already gave it away, Dad. You just don't know to who. The line went dead. For the first time, I felt something close to fear. That night, I went to my study to double-check the buyer's file. But when I opened the drawer, it was gone. Again. My entire sale contract had vanished. Someone had broken in. I tore through the room, scattering papers across the floor. Finally, I noticed a note pinned under my wife's framed photo. "You taught me how to play, Dad. Now it's my turn. I sank into the chair, trembling. I wanted to scream, to cry, to undo everything. But it was too late. Revenge doesn't end when you win. It ends when you lose yourself. By morning, a new letter arrived, this time from my lawyer. He wanted to meet urgently. When I entered his office, his face said, "Betrayal. Robert, your daughter filed for an injunction. She's claiming you sold the house under emotional duress, that you're unfit to manage finances." I stared at him, speechless. He hesitated before continuing. She also produced a document, a will. My pulse spiked. A will? What will? Callahan slid a paper across the desk. "This one. It's got your signature." I leaned closer and froze. It was my signature. Perfectly forged. The will stated that upon my death, all remaining assets, including the sale proceeds, would go directly to Emily and Daniel. My hands shook as I read it. This is fake. She forged this. Callahan nodded grimly. "I believe you. But proving it? That'll be another story." The room spun. My own daughter had not only betrayed me, she was erasing me legally. I left his office in silence, walking the long road home under a gray, merciless sky. Every step echoed like judgment. In the distance, the house I no longer owned looked smaller, colder, emptier. Inside my coat pocket, my wife's locket felt heavy, heavier than guilt, heavier than love. I whispered, "You were right, Clara. She's become what I feared." But as I reached my door, I stopped dead. Someone had slipped another note under it. This time, no words. Just a copy of the forged will, and a single line written in red ink. "You taught me revenge. Now I'm finishing the lesson." When I turned the page over, I saw something worse. A date. The date of my death. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, but because I realized something I'd buried for years was about to surface. You see, long before Emily became who she is now, I did something she never forgave me for. When her mother, Clara, was sick, I'd taken out a second mortgage, behind Clara's back, to pay for treatment. It was desperate, foolish, but I'd saved her life for 2 more years. When she died, I told Emily the house was paid off. It wasn't. And now that secret, the one thing that could make me look like the liar, was about to become her weapon. That morning I found Daniel sitting in his car again right outside. I walked up and tapped his window. "Morning," I said. He rolled it down with that fake politeness. "Mr. Hayes." "Tell me something, Daniel," I said quietly. "Do you love her?" He smirked. "Love's complicated, sir, but money's simple." That was all I needed to hear. I smiled faintly. "You just made my job easier." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You'll find out soon." That same afternoon, I called a private investigator, Mark Reynolds, an old friend from my construction days. He owed me favors. "Mark," I said, "I need everything on Daniel. Finances, debts, affairs, the works." He whistled. "You planning something big, Rob?" "I'm planning balance," I replied. For 2 days I waited. Emily didn't call, but her silence was louder than any word. The air around the house felt heavy, like it was waiting for something to explode. Then Mark sent me a file, and when I opened it, I almost felt sorry for her. Daniel had two other women, one in Chicago, one in Seattle. He'd maxed out 3 credit cards, was being chased by collectors, and worst of all, he'd taken out a loan in Emily's name. I didn't even need revenge anymore. I had justice. That night I called her. "Emily," I said softly, "come by tomorrow. We need to speak about Daniel." She hesitated. "Why?" "Because I think you deserve to know the truth." She arrived the next morning, nervous, defensive. I had the documents laid neatly on the table. "Dad, I don't have time for your games." "No games," I said, sliding the folder toward her. "Just facts." She opened it. Her hands trembled as she read. At first she looked shocked, then angry, then broken. "You're lying," she whispered. "I wish I was." Tears welled up in her eyes. "He wouldn't do that to me." "Look at the signatures, Emily. He already did." She stood there shaking. For the first time, I didn't feel hate, just sadness. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Did you think this would make me forgive you?" she said. "This doesn't change what you did." "What I did?" I said sharply. "I raised you, gave you everything. You lied to me, Dad," she screamed. "About Mom, about the house, everything." And just like that, the truth was no longer a weapon. It was gasoline. She stormed out again, but this time I knew where she was going, straight to Daniel. That night, I followed her car, parked 2 streets away. Through the rain-blurred windshield, I saw them arguing, voices raised, gestures wild. Then Daniel shoved her. I gripped the steering wheel, every nerve burning. She stumbled back, then slapped him hard. He shouted something, then stormed into his car and sped off. Emily stood there alone, crying under the streetlight, and for a moment I almost got out. Almost went to her. But then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "If you expose him, the world will know your secret too. Think carefully, Robert." My breath caught. How the hell? That secret. The one from the hospital. The one only Clara and I knew. Emily had found it. She wasn't just destroying Daniel, she was coming for me. And this time she had proof. The next morning I found an envelope on my doorstep again. No name, just a recording device inside. I pressed play. My late wife's voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, Emily, it means your father never told you everything." I froze. It was Clara, her voice, soft, tired, near the end. "Your father did what he thought was right. But the truth is, I never wanted the treatment. He forced it. He said he couldn't live without me, so he borrowed money and kept me alive when I didn't want to be." Tears blurred my eyes. "Clara, why?" I whispered. "If you're angry, Em, don't be at me. Be at him. He couldn't let go." The recording ended. I stood there, numb. Emily had found her mother's old tapes and used them. This was her final blow. Not to take my house, but my peace. She sent the same recording to my lawyer, my old neighbors, even to the bank. The whispers started almost immediately. "Did you hear what Robert did to his wife? He forced her to stay alive?" I'd become a monster in my own town. That evening, Emily called. Her voice was flat. "Now we're even." "Even?" I said quietly. "You think destroying your mother's memory makes you even?" She deserved truth, and so did I. "You've turned pain into poison," I said, "and you'll drown in it." "Maybe," she said softly, "but you'll drown first." The line cut. For hours I sat there replaying that voice, Clara's voice, until I could barely breathe. At midnight, I went upstairs to my wife's old room, her perfume still faint in the air. I sat on the bed and whispered, "I'm sorry, Clara. I couldn't let you go then, and I can't let her destroy you now." That night, I made my final decision. If Emily wanted destruction, I'd give her one she'd never forget. The next morning, I transferred every cent from the sale into a trust, one she couldn't touch until she was 40. I left a note. "I forgive you, Emily." But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. Then I packed a single suitcase and left the town behind. Days passed, weeks. I heard nothing. No calls, no messages, just silence. Until one morning, my lawyer called. "Robert, we need to talk. Emily's gone." My heart stopped. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" "She disappeared 2 nights ago, left her car near the bridge. No sign of her since." The phone slipped from my hand. I ran to the car, drove through the rain straight to that bridge, the one Clara used to paint on weekends. Police lights flashed, officers murmuring near the railing. I pushed past them until I saw it. Her scarf, soaked, caught on the metal edge, and beneath it, a letter. In her handwriting. "You wanted peace, Dad. Now you can have it." But when I turned the page over, there was one more line. "Check the bank. The trust isn't yours anymore." Rain hit the river like nails that night. The police said they'd searched every inch of the water. No body, no trace, just the scarf. They called it a likely suicide. I called it something else. Revenge's final act. For 3 days, I didn't speak, didn't eat, didn't sleep. Just sat in the chair by the window, staring at the rain streaking down the glass. The same chair where I'd first heard her plotting against me. It felt like everything had come full circle, but darker, emptier. The police came by again on the 4th day. Detective Harris, a quiet man with a face that had seen too much, stood at my door. "Mr. Hayes," he said softly, "we're doing everything we can. But without evidence—" "I know," I interrupted. "You won't find her." He frowned. "Why do you say that?" I looked out toward the river. "Because she doesn't want to be found." He hesitated, studying me. "You think she's alive?" I didn't answer. He nodded slowly. "If you remember anything, call me." After he left, I sat in silence again. But that question lingered in my mind. Do I think she's alive? Yes. Because Emily never did anything without purpose. And if she'd really wanted to die, she wouldn't have left a note about the trust. That night, I logged into my bank account. And sure enough, the trust was empty. Transferred. But not to her name. To a charity. The Clara Hayes Foundation. I froze. My wife's name. A foundation that didn't exist a week ago. My heart pounded as I clicked the link. It led to a page with a single message. Some inheritances aren't money, Dad. Some are guilt. No signature, no contact. Just that line. I closed my laptop, my hands shaking. If this was Emily's doing, then she wasn't dead. She was hiding. And worse, she'd taken my revenge and turned it into her redemption story. I started looking. Hospitals, rental records, new business filings. Anywhere the name Clara Hayes Foundation appeared. For days, nothing. Until one morning a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a USB drive. I plugged it in. The screen flickered, then showed grainy camera footage. It was from inside my house. The study, my chair, my desk. The timestamp. 3 days before she disappeared. Emily stood there, staring into the camera, her face pale, her eyes red but steady.
"Dad, I know you're going to find this," she said. "I don't hate you anymore. I understand you now. You couldn't let Mom go, and I couldn't let you go either. But this house, this legacy, it's poisoned both of us."
She took a deep breath.
"So I'm ending it. Not my life. The cycle."
She held up a folder. I recognized it instantly. The forged will. "This was never real. Just a test. I wanted to see how far you'd go to protect what was yours. And now I see it. You'd burn the world if it meant not losing control." Her voice cracked. "Don't come looking for me. I'm not your enemy anymore. I'm your reflection." The video cut out. I sat there, frozen. She wasn't dead. She was out there, living under a ghost name, rewriting our story while I sat in the ashes of my own making. And for the first time in my life, I didn't know whether I wanted to find her or let her win. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Tell me in the comments. As I closed my laptop, another file auto-opened. A second video labeled, "For the River." When I clicked play, I saw her again. But this time, she wasn't alone. Daniel was standing right behind her. The second video played like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Emily stood near the riverbank, the same spot where the police found her scarf. Daniel was beside her, looking nervous. "You're sure this will work?" he asked.
"It has to,"
she replied.
"He won't stop until he thinks I'm gone."
Daniel looked at her, uncertain.
"And then what?"
She smiled faintly.
"Then we disappear. For good."
The screen glitched. Then it showed them walking toward the bridge. She handed him something. A scarf, the same one found later. The video ended. My hands trembled. She'd staged it all. The fight, the note, the disappearance. It was never a tragedy. It was a message. For days I couldn't think straight. Every sound felt like her voice. Every shadow looked like her shape. But one thing gnawed at me more than anything else. Daniel. If he was part of this, why hadn't he resurfaced? Why hadn't he claimed victory? Unless he couldn't. I called Mark, my investigator, again. "Mark, I need you to find Daniel Brooks, alive or dead." It took him 3 days. When he called back, his voice was different. Heavy. "Rob, they found his car, abandoned, near the state line. Inside..." "Inside what?" "His wallet, his phone, and a note." "What did it say?" Mark hesitated. "Just one line. She wanted freedom. I gave it to her." A cold chill ran down my spine. Had Daniel killed her after all? Or had she killed him? Either way, the game wasn't over. I drove to the last address linked to the Clara Hayes Foundation, a small community shelter 2 towns away. The place was quiet, almost too peaceful. A young woman at the desk looked up. "Can I help you, sir?" "I'm looking for someone. Emily Hayes." She frowned, then said softly, "No one here by that name." I turned to leave, but then a familiar voice stopped me. "Dad." I froze. She stood at the end of the hallway, alive, thinner, older, but unmistakably her. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Then I whispered, "Emily." She smiled sadly. "You shouldn't have come." I took a step forward. "You're alive. I told you I would be," she said quietly. "Just not for you." "Where's Daniel?" Her eyes darkened. "Gone." "Gone where?" She looked away. "Let's just say he didn't want to be part of this story anymore." There was something in her tone, not guilt, not sorrow. Control. You killed him, I said softly. She didn't deny it. I did what you taught me, she said. Protect what's yours. Eliminate what threatens it. I felt my knees weaken. Emily, this isn't protection. It's obsession. She smiled faintly. Sounds familiar. Her words hit like glass, because she was right. She'd become exactly like me. Why the foundation? I asked quietly. Because I wanted Mom's name to mean something again. Not pain, not guilt. Something good. I shook my head. Good doesn't come from lies. She stepped closer. Neither does survival. But we both did what we had to, didn't we? For a long moment, silence filled the air. The kind of silence that only exists when two people know the truth, but can't bear to say it out loud. Then she handed me an envelope. This is yours, Dad. The last piece of the house money. I don't want it. I stared at it, then back at her. Emily, what do you want from me? She looked up, her eyes soft but tired. Forgiveness, and for you to stop chasing ghosts. She turned to leave. Emily, I said quietly, if you walk away now, I'll never see you again. She paused, then whispered, That's the point. She walked out into the rain, fading into the gray horizon, the same way her mother had left this world, quietly, without goodbye. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single photo of the three of us, years ago, laughing in front of the house. On the back, she'd written, You tog at me revenge. I just gave it meaning. And below it, a new address. A small cottage by the same river. Signed, Come home, if you can still call it that. The road to the river felt longer this time. Every turn whispered memories. Laughter, arguments, Clara's voice humming from the kitchen window. When I reached the cottage, it was nearly dusk. The air smelled like rain and wood smoke. A small lantern flickered on the porch, as if someone had been waiting for me. I pushed open the door. Inside, everything was painfully familiar. The same old clock from our living room, the same framed photo of Clara in her garden. It wasn't a new home. It was a reconstruction of the one we'd destroyed. On the table, a note. You wanted control. I wanted peace. This place can only hold one of us. Emily. Next to it, a small key. And beneath the key, a legal folder. It was the deed to the cottage, under my name. I sank into the chair, running my hand over the papers. What kind of game was this? Then I noticed something else. A phone. Old, cracked, and recording. I pressed play. Emily's voice filled the room. Dad, if you're hearing this, it means you came. I built this place from what was left of our old home. I wanted to show you that destruction can rebuild something better, if you let it. Her voice broke for a second. I'm not running anymore. I just can't be the daughter you wanted, the one who forgave you for everything. So I'm leaving you this, the last piece of your legacy. What you do with it is your choice. The recording clicked off. I looked around at the house, her gift, her curse, her closure. But I didn't feel peace. I felt unfinished. Because revenge doesn't die when the story ends. It lingers in the spaces where love once lived. If you were in my place, would you forgive her? Or finish what she started? Tell me in the comments. As I stood to leave, I saw something outside. A fresh bouquet of lilies by the riverbank. And next to them, a woman's shadow watching me. She stepped into the light, soaked from the rain, her eyes tired but calm. Still following ghosts? she asked softly. I followed my daughter, I said. She nodded.
Then maybe you found her.
We stood in silence, the river whispering beside us. You built this place, I said.
For what?
To taunt me?
No, she replied. To remind you, we're both still here, and that means we still have a choice.
I looked down at the deed in my hand.
You could have taken everything, Emily. Why give it back?
She smiled faintly.
Because winning wasn't the point anymore.
There it was, the truth I had refused to see. This was never about money or control. It was about breaking free from me, from the version of love that demanded loyalty over peace.
I hurt you, I whispered.
She didn't answer, just looked at me, tears mixing with rain. Then she said something I'll never forget.
You didn't lose me, Dad. You just taught me how to let go.
For the first time, I saw Clara in her, the strength, the grace, the silence that forgives without forgetting. I placed the deed in her hands. It's yours. Everything, even the past. She stared at it, shocked. Why now? Because revenge doesn't rebuild homes, I said quietly. Love does, even if it comes too late. We stood by the river as dawn broke through the fog. She smiled once, a sad, forgiving smile, then turned away. I didn't stop her this time. When she disappeared beyond the trees, I finally felt it. Peace. Not because I won, but because I let go. I sat on the porch, the house behind me, the river ahead, and whispered into the morning air, Clara, it's done. The wind carried the words away, and for the first time in years, I didn't chase them. Don't forget to subscribe if you've been following this story. Because sometimes, revenge isn't about justice. It's about learning when to stop. Some houses are rebuilt with forgiveness, but forgiveness always costs something you can't get back.